So good morning, everyone. Again, thank you for joining today morning. Again, we will start with the mindful breathing exercise. Again, try to make yourself relaxed, comfortable. And let your body and mind settle down. And then as you inhale and exhale, naturally, normally, try to keep your mind observing, watching it mindfully, and being aware. If it helps, you can count in your mind. As you inhale, exhale, one, and again you inhale, exhale, two, with each cycles of inhaling and exhaling. For some, it might help to keep your mind from wandering off. And if it helps your mind to keep more focus, you can always count 1 to 10 with each cycle. And again, start from counting 1 to 10. Then we can try to generate a good intentions, motivation. And we can think, what do we really want in our life? What is important in our life? Is it important to be happy? And that's what you want? Or it is about collecting things, whatever that means? External, internal, achieving, collecting, accomplishing. Would you like to accomplish a lot, collect a lot of, have a lot? If you are not happy, is it worthwhile? Is that you really want? And if you want to be happy, then we have to figure out what gives us really happy. What makes us really happy. True happiness have to come from within your mind, within yourself. You cannot find true happiness in something external, outside. If you want to be real happy, and if we want to see others happy, then we have to work with our mind, training our mind. Through training our mind, trying to reduce those harmful negative thoughts, feeling, emotions as much as we can. And trying to generate and increase the positive state of minds. That are the cause and that give us real sense of inner peace, inner happiness, inner joy, satisfaction. And if we're happy from the depth of our mind, our heart, also we can be more benefit and help to others. We will be able to contribute to bring more happiness in others as well. And in order to train our mind, we need to study, learn, and reflect, contemplate, and meditate. Engage in a practice. for that very reason that's why we are coming together to listen, to engage in discussion, reflection, contemplations. So it can hopefully maybe inspire us, encourage us, or at least remind us the importance of working with our mind, training our mind. For our own happiness and happiness of others. And may us coming together become cause and conditions to obtain our highest potential, the fully awakened state. So we can be not only help, but the greatest help and benefit. And not only just to ourselves and a few others, but to each and every sentient being who needs help. Yeah.
Taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentients. Sangye chodam soge chonam va chanchu bargun dan tapsuchi dagi chonen gebe sonam Lola penche sangye duha sho Sangye chodam soge chonam va chanchu bargun dagi yatsuchi Dagi chonen gebe sonam Lola penche sangye duha sho
Ye Rujani Adam de Bombede, Kodam de la Chapal. So we are in the last few verses of this text, and we are in a part of the verses where for some of you it might go over the top, especially some of the last verses. But since we are going through that, we will discuss later. And but for some, it might be helpful, beneficial. For some who have some wanting to know a little bit about the Tantra, having some, wondering what the initiation, empowerment are, what the tantric practice are, whether I'm interested in that or not, whether I'm ready for that or not, what does it require? So I think to have, because this is something that we don't kind of talk and discuss much, even though we do have time to time teachers coming and giving empowerment, whether at our center or at other centers. So because we are on the chapter on that, verses on that. So yeah, for some it can be some help. For some, it might be a little bit over the top, but I think maybe it might be nice to know as well. So last week we discussed a little bit about difference between the sutra and tantra. Certain the practice. What are some of the tantric practice that is different from sutra, or maybe more than different? Some of the practice that is not taught in the sutras, but certain different technique, meditations, practices that you find in tantra that you don't find in sutra. So I think we kind of touched on that a little bit last week, and we also touched on a little bit on the 4 classes of the tantra and why there were 4 classes and for what disciple or individual they were given, what mental state, what kind of mentalities, and that. So we kind of talk a little bit that. And so when one feel, and again, in terms of when one feel that one has some interest, one is kind of ready to, engage in the tantric practice, whether lower class type of the tantra, that is the first 2 tantras, action tantra and performing tantra, or higher tantra, yoga and highest yoga tantra. When you feel that, you feel that I'm interested and I'm ready, and that you have done the foundations from the sutra. Then the next is to take when you are in that state, and when you want to really study and practice, then taking the empowerments. So it is said the empowerment is gateway to the tantra. So just as you have to enter through the gate, in order to really study and practice the tantric practice seriously, then first you need to have the empowerment. Without the empowerment, you can do very, very, very simple some of the practice, recitation of mantras, very simple visualization of some of them, but you can't really kind of engage in this very depth or serious study and practice. Without that, first you need a kind of empowerment that empower you to study and practice that. So I think that is what the section in terms of the verse where it is coming about in terms of the verse itself. Second last page, and then the second last verses. Because last time we went through, if you wish the earlier verse, through the power of accomplishment, through the confined vast and others, if you wish to take the practice of secret mantra or tantra, as taught in actions, conduct, and other tantras, 4 class of tantras. So then we are here. Then, in order to receive the empowerment, so if you wish to practice, then first you need to receive the empowerment, And therefore, in order to receive the empowerment from a Vajra master, so qualified Vajra master, there can be many different levels of master or teachers, spiritual teachers. spiritual teachers. That is taught in some of the, Vinaya sutras. That master teacher requires certain qualification to give, precepts such as refuge precepts or lay vows, lay precepts, or ordain. There are monks and nuns. There are different level of ordinations, precepts, or vows. So for such master and teacher, there are certain qualifications, as is described. Then for those teachers, who teach the Mahayana teachings, about bodhisattva practice, then there is certain, again, qualification to be a qualified, authentic masters. There are certain qualifications, 10 different qualifications that you find in Maitreya's writing and many of the lamrims. And then to give a tantric empowerment, such masters have to have even more qualifications. There are, again, different kind of 10 qualifications that is prescribed. So, we don't just go and take anyone because someone is giving. It's important to first study ourselves, know what the qualifications are, and then do a little bit of research, whether the person who's giving, whether they have those qualifications or not. Because nowadays, in every sector, in every field, there are a lot of people who doesn't give without proper qualifications. Just because you have done the training and you have the certificate, and so then you start, even though you are not really, through practicing, that is not something you do every day and all practice. And same in a spiritual path too. Sometimes, there can be also like that. So therefore, doing some research and so those, yeah. So that is here Vajra master. Okay, Vajra master means someone, who can have the qualifications of such Vajra tantric master's qualification. Is in all the Buddhist teachings, even though it emphasizes the importance of the teachers, guru, even though it gives very importance of that part of the practice, but also it gives very specific, very importance to really the teachers have the qualifications. Importance of authentic qualified teachers. To take someone as a spiritual teachers, For here, like we come and we have these classes. You don't have to take me as your guru. There's no need for that. We just like you go in a class, study that. You go and study with whatever subject you study with another teachers. That doesn't have to be your spiritual guru. And there's no need of that, but when we make a connection through initiation, then we have that connections. In such, then there is no exceptions. That is also why it is important, and that will be same with others. So for that reason, even some teachers, even they have the qualification to give initiation, they will not give that. because it is when you do that, then it makes a certain spiritual relationship, and in that, if there is some broke in that relationship, spiritual, then it can be a negative and harmful for both. So, from master, you must please the noble spiritual teachers, that such masters, through venerations, offering of wealth and like. So first you try to find such Basra master, and then you try to, pick, whatever offering that one can, offering service, offering whatever, other things that you can offer, and endeavoring to carry out all the commands, and then trying to follow their advice, instructions. So for that, maybe I just wanted to kind of touch on a few importance. As I said, in all different vehicles or of the Buddhist teachings, importance giving to the teacher, the guru, and how to relate with guru correctly, properly, because all our spiritual practice and whatever spiritual experience realization that we might be able to achieve, or which we might have already achieved, it all comes through them, and therefore, there is a certain special relationship. And so, in a Vinaya, it tells you have to look the teachers like the representative of the Buddha. Okay, like the representative of the Buddha. You respect the guru, the teacher, as you will respect the Buddha, because he or she is a representative of that Buddha, because he or she is carrying the Buddha's message. It's like the ambassador who carry the policy of the president or prime minister of the countries. So ambassador will be respected by others as the leader of that country. Similarly, the teacher is that carry the message, the knowledge, the wisdom of the Buddha, and so therefore one need to rely with the teachers as that, with the respect, as you will do as a representative of the Buddha. Then in the Bodhisattva Sutra practice, when we practice the lamrim, as we went through earlier, the foundation before the tantric practice. In that, then also, as I mentioned, the qualification teacher is different from the early ones, have more qualifications and different qualifications. But also, when you rely, then you try to treat the teachers as is the Buddha. Now it becomes a little bit more what you call more profound or more subtle. You try to treat the teachers, the guru. Teacher here meaning the guru, okay? Someone, you have that spiritual guru-disciple relationship. not anyone who's teaching, just like myself here at the moment, not that one, but like from the disciple and from the teacher, from their side, they make that kind of connections. And if they have that spiritual connections, and then, that one try to see the guru as the Buddha, and then try to have the, the faith, the devotions, and respect as you will have for the Buddha, by seeing as Buddha. And then when it comes to tantric masters who give the initiations, not only you see him as a Buddha, it go even more profound. You actually try to see not in ordinary form, but actually in the deity forms, In the sutra, even though you see them as a Buddha, but you can still see them as, in the aspect or form or aspect of ordinary, But when we come to the tantric, then you try to see, you try to train not to see as an ordinary form, but trying to see in the form of that particular deity of whatever initiation you receive, So it become more kind of what you call more profound, and the practice of Guru devotions become more kind of stronger, and pay more importance. It become more important as your practice on those levels, So that is one thing that I wanted to mention. With the sutras, you can go listen to the teachings. You don't have to take them as your guru. But in tantric, as I mentioned, you have to do the investigation before you take it. Because when you take the initiation, then we make that guru disciples relationship, and important to analyze before we make that kind of commit ourselves for that relationship, And so here it says, carry out all the commands. That seems a little bit. So again, on that, I want to kind of touch on a little bit to. You find, especially in tantric practice, that no matter what once you have that relationship, no matter what the guru does, you try to see it all as a, you try to see it all as a pure, unmistaken, doing for the benefit of others, whatever they say, whatever they do. You find that if you study in the tantric as well as in sutras, in lamrim, sometimes you find that. But that is based on that the teacher is a real Buddha. Okay? That is based on if the teacher is a real Buddha. Of course, we do not know whether the teacher is real Buddha or bodhisattvas or not even bodhisattvas, All the contact we make with, in reality, we cannot say for sure. And therefore, in that senses, I think that you cannot take everything they say as literally, and trying to see everything they do as an unmistaken or enlightened. Here I might get in trouble. Uh, but also in the Sutra, Antara, and Vinaya teachings, also there are statements or teaching by Buddha that where it says, if your teachers or the guru lead in according to Dharma, you follow it. If he or she leads you towards non-Dharma, you don't have to follow, you don't have to listen. Also in one of the Tantric teachings on Guru devotions, it's called Among of 51 verses of Guru devotion by one of the great Indian masters. In one, of course, in that he talked how to practice devotion with, his body, speech, and mind. But there's one verse where it says, if your guru asks you to do something that you cannot follow or you are unable to do it, then you should try to explain, clarify it. So again, what that shows is you don't have to follow all the command or everything what they ask you to do. If you feel you are unable to do it, if you cannot do it, then you just give clarifications and explanation why you are unable to do it, why you are unable to complete it. And I don't think that is a contradiction to the practice of other practices. And I think it's even more, I would say, for us, maybe even more safe and better approach. And if he or she is true, kind, compassionate guru, they will understand that. They will understand why you are unable to follow whatever command, or command is maybe, I don't know the right word, advice. Whatever advice they ask you to do, whatever advice they give you, ask you to do, which you are unable to, and they will be able to understand that, with your explanations, with your reasonings. And I don't see there will be a contradiction with Buddha devotion with that approach. Even His Holiness the Lama, in one of his main teachers, he has two tutors, Ling Rinpoche and Tijang Rinpoche, and he says, he has, of course, he always expresses his gratitude and kindness of them from how much he has studied, learned, how much they have helped and contributed in his spiritual growing, all of that, and trying to follow their advices, instructions, all of that. But, when it comes to certain area, for example, in a certain one particular practice, then, he disagree with one of his Tijang Rinpoches, there was one practice that he disagreed, but that doesn't take away his devotions and his respect and all of that. So therefore, I don't see there's a contradictions, in that you can even sometimes find in my own example, I have many teachers, many gurus, not just one gurus, over 18, 19 gurus, and especially I have, kind of really strong with it, like mainly 5, and but they have different approach. They not have the same approach in terms of presentation of the Dharma, in terms of interpretations of certain statements, in terms of the practice itself, they have a different approach. So if I try to follow everything they say, then I will be in conflict. Do you get it? One approach is different. Whom should I follow? So then I have to use my own reasoning, logic, my own analysis, and see which approach suits me more, or my state of mind. Even though both approaches are right and correct, but in terms of personal, that approach might be more suitable for certain disciples, but it might not be so suitable for another disciples. And through that, then you use your own reasoning logic and try to find which approach is better personally for yourself. And so then when you approach that, then, you are not following the other teacher's approach. Does that mean I'm not following his advice? Does that mean that I'm not having the Guru devotion? No. I still have the respect. I still have high regard. I still follow their advices. But in certain cases, then when there is, then you follow that. So yeah, and so I am kind of going a little bit here because of here when you say, endeavoring to carry out all commands, and I think it seems to me this is one of the big problems for a lot of Westerners, either they are afraid to build that guru-disciple relationship because you feel then you will lose all your freedom. You will be guided by the guru and you just follow them, whatever they say. And you can't make your decisions. They will be guided. And of course, there's fear and afraid of losing that. and maybe to some extent reasonable and good, because you don't want to. You have to use your wisdom, your own mind, On the other hand, once they make that relationship, then like they feel like they have to follow everything they says, take literally everything they says. If they don't follow, then I'm not following. I'm not practicing Guru devotion well. Just like this verse says, endeavoring to carry out all the commands. So therefore, you feel like I have to follow everything they says. If I don't follow that, then it feel like I'm not doing right. And then sometimes that become a problem. And so therefore, as I mentioned, of course, when someone try to ask you to do something which is against the Dharma, against the basic Dharma, you don't have to follow. As I mentioned, even the Buddha said in His Holiness says that, if someone try to lead you or ask you to do something which is against the Dharma itself, the basic Dharma against itself, then. But even it is not that, even they are trying to, not against the Dharma, but it's Dharma, but maybe they might have asked you to do something you feel you are not ready, or that you are not ready, or you are incapable of doing that. In such cases, you have a right to give explanation, clarifications, respectfully. I'm sorry, I would not be able to carry this one. And with your reason and logics, your reason and explanations. And that is also okay, as I mentioned in the past. As I mentioned, I'm not the best students in every aspect, and also same with the Guru devotions. I'm not the best examples. There had been time when my Guru asked me to do something which I feel I wasn't ready, which I felt I wasn't ready, which I felt that I couldn't do it. I went and give them explanation respectfully, explaining why I feel I'm not ready, why I feel like I would not be able to do this, and they were very understanding. They were very kind, compassion. Their love, compassion didn't become less because of that, nor my devotion become less because of that. Actually, maybe my devotion became stronger, even more stronger with that after that. Also from my teacher's side, I think their understanding became even more stronger, because I think I was being more honest, instead of, you sometimes people feel, you are not, and then inside your mind, there is a lot of struggles, you feel like you can't do it, you are not ready, but then my teacher asked me to do, and what I should do, and there is all kinds of struggles, and that could lead to negative feelings, negative thoughts. Not immediately, but with the time, that can come, and then it started to become more negative after sometimes, and sometimes it can have a more unhealthy relationship than healthy relationship. So it is even more it is better to make clear, explain, and with clarification and reasoning explanation. I don't think that goes against, such as the statement here, like to carry out all the commands, and many others statement that you find. So again, that is my approach. As I said, I'm not the best. Some others have different approach, So again, it's up to individuals to make our own decisions, which approach suit me or not. So first, to receive the empower, to really study and practice Tantra, you need the empowerment. In order to receive the empowerment, then you need to find qualified Vajra master who can give that empowerment. And and once you find that someone who can give you empowerment, then you try to, build up that guru-disciple relationship, and with that, and then you try to, offer whenever possible, offerings, whether it's service or other things, and then trying to follow their advice and trying to carry their advice, instructions. So that is where. And then, next, through the complete bestowal of the Vajra Master empowerment by a spiritual master whom you have delighted, you will be completely purified of all sins and gain the fortune of accomplishing siddhis. So again, depending on which class of the Tantra, in the the first two class of Tantra, you don't have the Vajra master empowerment. You have empowerment, but mainly the vast empowerment. In the empowerment, there are 4 levels of empowerment. The vast empowerment, the empowerment, success empowerment, wisdom empowerment, and word empowerments. And the first empowerment, the empowerment of the vast, in the lower Tantra, you only can receive that. And the 3 higher Tantras, empowerment, you don't have that. So in the lower Tantra, also you don't have to take tantric vows to take the initiations. You're required to take the refuge as a requirement. You're required to have, you need to take the Bodhisattva's vows, but it doesn't require the tantric vows. For the highest yoga Tantra, then you need also on top of the refuge and the Bodhisattva vows and tantric vows as well. So there's another difference in that. And within the vast empowerment, within that, then there is 5. Sometimes more. Most time there's a 5. Within that, then there is 5 sub empowerments. Maybe I don't need to go through all of that. So here, this one is talking about the highest yoga tantra, Vajra Master empowerment, and in that, then you need to take the also tantric vow when you take that, and so the purpose of taking the empowerment is to purify, the negative karma, and all the obstacles to actualize the spiritual realization, especially tantric spiritual realizations, and then to have the imprint implanted in your mind streams, or potential not in your mind stream to actualize the realizations and to achieve the four kayas, the four Buddha's kayas or bodies, So here, saying is purify sins and gain fortune of accomplishing cities, to have the imprint of the potential to accomplish common and uncommon cities, as we mentioned before, that kind of common city and some others, and then uncommon cities are fully enlightenment. So in the lower tantra, the main practice is two, what they call practice with sign and practice without sign. So those are the two main practice after you receive the initiations and you study, learn, and practice. And practice with the signs is, like you visualize either yourself or the deity in front of you. You visualize yourself as the deity. Of course, that involves many different stages. For example, if we take one example of practicing the Avalokiteshvara, with a full empowerment, if we take the practice Avalokiteshvara, Buddha compassion, at the very beginning, you start with dissolving everything in emptiness and meditating on emptiness. Okay, most of the tantric sadhana start with emptiness. Everything, ordinary self, ordinary environment, everything dissolved into emptiness. And then you meditate on emptiness. And then from that emptiness, the wisdom realizing that emptiness, then that manifests as the sound for the mantra or Om Mani Padme Hum, you visualize that. And then slowly that sound of the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum manifests into the mantra syllables, Om Mani Padme Hum. Before it's the sound, now it becomes the syllable of the mantra itself, Om Mani Padme Hum. And that Om Mani Padme Hum syllables, we get the three syllable, and then transform into the form of the Avalokiteshvara. So you visualize then yourself as Avalokiteshvara, for example. Whatever, Am Cherisi, 1,000 Am Cherisi. And of course you visualize, from top to the bottom, with slowly, bringing all the details, And then once you have gone through that, once you have visualized yourself as the deity, the Avalokiteshvara, then you try to generate a strong, what we call divine pride. This is me. This form, Avalokiteshvara, this is me. So as I mentioned last week, trying to let go of any kind of the ordinary self. The ordinary self, the appearance of ordinary self, Instead, you try to visualize yourself in that Avalokiteshvara form, and then trying to hold that strong divine pride. This is who I am. This is who I am. And then, of course, at the very beginning visualization, you go through the details, from the top to the bottom, all the details of the deity itself. Then once you have gone through details, then, you try to not go in detail, but try to keep your concentration in that image, general image of that. So then that will to improve your concentration. If you go in detail, your mind get distracted. So you don't want to get distracted. That is, to develop a single-pointed concentration, then you just try to keep that object here, the image of yourself as Avalokiteshvara, So that is one of the main practice. And then, again, while this Avalokiteshvara, the form of Avalokiteshvara, even though it is empty of existing from its own side or inherently, but then there is also appearance of existing inherently, the Avalokiteshvara. And then again, reminding ourselves and meditating, even though there's appearance of inherent existence of that form, but in reality, there's no inherent existence of Avalokiteshvara, absolute empty of inherent existence. So while holding the form and aspect of that Avalokiteshvara, that deity, at the same time, from one side of your mind, being aware is non-inherent existence. And so that is what we call the unique of the tantric is this the union and inseparable and union of and profound. So here, profound meaning emptiness. Clarity is the image of that deity. So while you hold that very clear image of that Buddha or deity in visualization, while you are trying to hold that very clear image, at the same time, from one side of the mind, you are also being aware is non-inherent existence. So that is the kind of the main kind of focus on the practice of the lower tantra. Of course, there are other visualization and also on, but so when it comes to the highest yoga tantra, as I said, there are 4 types of highest yoga tantra. Within that, there are 4 empowerment, the vast empowerment, and then the secret and the wisdom and the word empowerment. So then when it comes to that, then that is what it's saying. Also, we have to remember a little bit of history of time when Atisha wrote this text and why he's emphasizing on these certain issues here. Okay. Normally, like many others, tantric maybe you might not see so much emphasize on that, but here in a few verses he emphasized very much here. Buddhism came to Tibet around 7 centuries. One of the king wanted to brought the Buddhism. So the state supported that. The king, the state supported that, and then Buddhism came and flourished and that. But after 2 generations of that, during the King Lung Dharma, he was not supportive of these new religions or new spiritual path. Before Buddhism came, of course, in Tibet, it was born like many other countries. Not exactly same, but similarity. Worshipping the natures and deity of the natures and so forth. So anyway, King Lama Dharma was not supportive of that. So during his time, he destroyed that. He what you call executed the practitioners and all of that. And that time a lot of practitioners, teachers, they escaped from that area, run away. And for 80 years, Buddhism went down, because you are not allowed to practice. If you practice, you are in danger. That was during the King Lama and later. And so, and after 80-something years, again, Buddhism started to come a little bit, and some teachers coming from India and other places. And at that time, there was authentic teachers and non-authentic teachers. When something like that happens, then when it's just reviving or in the new places where people doesn't know, so then there's always fake, unauthentic teachers, and then then there was a lot of misunderstanding, misconceptions, and especially tantric was very much misused, and so Changju Wei, who at that time in that western part of the Tibet, he was the kind of the royal family, and he saw that Buddhism is starting to come back, but there is not pure, there is all kind of mixed and real and unreal. And so he wanted to bring the pure Dharma and revive that. So that's when he invited Atisha, and he was the most well-known teacher at that time in India. And he made a lot of sacrifice. The king made a lot of sacrifice for many years to invite him. And finally, he was able to invite him and then requested him to compose a text that would be benefit for the normal Tibetan people. And they says, because Atisha was also a great scholar, he was from Nalanda, great scholar. They said that if he was in India, he would have composed a lot of great texts, but it will be more intellectuals, philosophicals, But when he came to Tibet, it was ordinary people, farmers, nomads, And also the king said, he didn't ask some kind of very profound, but something that can be beneficial and helpful for the ordinary peoples. And so that is what he composed. And so part of that, because at that time, there is a lot of misunderstanding of the Tantra as well and misuse of that. So I think maybe that's why he made more specific in next two verses of that, So here he said, as the great Tantra of pre-model Buddhas, emphatically forbid, so in that Tantra it is explained, those observing celibacy, so that might be monks, nuns, or lay practitioners who have taken celibacy vows. There are many practitioners in Tibet, lay practitioners, but who have taken their celibacy vows, And those observers should never receive the secret and wisdom empowerment, directly. So again, due to misunderstanding of Tantra, that is where that happens, You can take secret and wisdom empowerment, through visualizations by relying on wisdom mudra or consort, But at that time, what happened is some of teachers misuse it, and then in the name of giving a secret empowerment and wisdom empowerments, they were embracing girls or women as part of that ceremony, And so therefore, that was where that happened, because that was misused in the name of Tantra, in the name of Tantra, in the name of giving a secret and wisdom empowerment. A lot of teachers misuse that, And so that is where, so therefore, and if those practical celibacy and asceticism were to receive those empowerment, whether you are giving or whether you are receiving, whether you are giving or whether you are receiving with a direct kind of, consort, then of course, then they will be obliged to practice what is forbidden. They break their vows, and their vows of asceti would be deteriorate, the celibacy vows. And this creates a downfall which would defeat those practicing yogic discipline and those who would be certain to fall into lower realms, and they would never gain accomplishment. And so therefore, again, even when you practice highest yoga tantra, here he's saying the importance of your precepts, your moral discipline. Because as I mentioned at that time, in the name of secret, people just doesn't care about their discipline, their precepts, their moral discipline, in the name of Tantra, highest yoga Tantra. That is how it has been misused. And it is not only in Tibet, it has also been misused in the past in India too, and sometimes it might be even being misused now at time as well, possible, And so again, that is when, in that sense, sometimes it's important to study. Then otherwise it's easy for being misused, and so yeah, I think maybe today I will, and next week I will conclude it. There's only one verse, so I will kind of finish that and then just summarize the whole. And then after that, we will have a different subjects. Okay. Any questions?
Yes, I could first say that Alexis is asking for prayers for her kitten, no, for her cat, which cat is named Kitten, but Kitten.
What? Which has?
Her cat is named Kitten, and Kitten is dying, and
see,
she would like prayers for the dying.
Okay. Okay.
I just have one question. Can you comment on how valid, given everything you said about the relationship with the teacher in tantric empowerments, which is important? Can you comment on this practice of online tantric empowerments? It really seems.
Yeah, I think this is something totally new. Among the teachers, there is a lot of discussions, even among the teachers, whether someone can actually really give and someone can really receive empowerment through the online or not. Even among the Tibetan teachers, there are some discussions. Not everyone agree. And because it is something new things that has not happened before. um, mm, and some teachers will not give initiation on online. Okay. So, so it is something still something new, something still kind of being discussed. And of course, there is also one point of view. Well, even you might not really receive the initiation, but at least maybe you get some blessings. And so therefore there is benefit for that. Maybe even you don't get full initiation, maybe at least you get some blessing from that.
So is that your point of view when you gave online refuge and bodhisattva vows? The blessings aspect?
Yeah, also it depends on the situations. I think for many years, I refused to give refuge or bodhisattvas online, even though I've been asked. But in recent time, I did, but also I have made clear when I do that, since they don't have access to the direct teachers to receive it, they can take now, but then eventually when they have the access, they have to take in persons. So that is just kind of opening for them. But whenever they have access, available access, then they should take in person directly. So that has always been my suggestions. Yeah.
It's not a question for today, but I just wondered, the Geshe that'll be here for a number of months, does he give tantric empowerments? Do you know?
I don't think so. Um, um,
What about refuge and bodhisattva vows?
yeah, he might. He might. You have to request and see what he feel about it. Sometimes it is the teacher's decisions. Sometimes it's not just the qualifications. Basic qualifications, there are many of the geshes, not everyone, maybe many of them, they have the qualification to give the empowerments, especially if they have done the retreat and everything that required, that you first, of course, there are requirements you need to receive initiation yourself, then you need to have done certain retreat, and then part of that, you need to do certain ceremonies, prior ceremony related with that, and then if you know the general refuge that, then they can. But most of them will prefer not to give. Most of them will prefer not to give. So it's again individual's choice. Because they see it is a very serious, something serious for everyone involved there. Yes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Janice. I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you for your honesty about the relationship with the guru. Previously, too, you've talked about your own experience with different practices, and I find it always very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know whether that is real practice, but that is my approach. Okay. As I said, not all of my colleagues might agree with that. They might have some discussions, some different views. It depends, in the scriptures, in the studies, there are so many different statements, and which one you take literally, which one, and so you have to kind of study everything, and then from there you have to kind of make, and that is, and again, as I mentioned before, also, it's not something that I'm making up myself. I've listened to a lot of His Holiness teachings. I've been to a lot of His Holiness teachings, and also have, historically there are many. For example, even take an example of Atisha. Okay, Lama Atisha. One of his main teachers was Selingpa in Indonesia now. And at that time, he traveled 12, 13 months in the boat to go there and to receive the teachings, especially on Bodhicitta. And he studied with them for 12 years. And he has more than 53, 54 gurus, Atishas. And he hold, among all the gurus, this teacher very highly. Every time he spoke of him, he fold his hand and very highly. Because he said, whatever good heart I have, it comes from him. Bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, whatever good heart, Bodhicitta that he have developed, he said, because of that teacher, studying with him, and from him, that he always say, whatever good heart I have is because of that teacher. So among all teachers, he holds him very highly. But when it comes to the view, emptiness, Atisha was, follower of middle way school view, Nagarjuna's view. That teachers, in terms of the emptiness, the view, was mind only school. So when it comes to the emptiness, they don't agree. So he didn't just give up his understanding of emptiness and follow. Before he was following the Nagarjuna's view, now I'm going to follow mind only school because my teacher is mind only school. Do you get it what I mean? So even in that, with that example, also within the other there are many stories about that. So that doesn't mean that Atisha didn't have guru devotions because he didn't agree with the view on emptiness with his teachers, because he had a different view on when it comes to emptiness. Not only he has the devotion, but he regarded him even much more higher than many other teachers, and because of that. So therefore, there are many, many other examples like that. So therefore, that clearly shows you don't have to agree everything. Do you get it? You don't have to agree everything. And if you don't agree everything, that doesn't mean you have lost your devotions, your Guru devotions, or there was some problem with your relationship. Okay. Okay, then we do the dedications. Yeah, okay.
I think there's a question on Zoom.
Okay. This.
Thank you, Geshe Sherab. I was wondering, could you explain what it means to practice with signs and without signs?
What? We cannot. Can you sound a little louder?
What it means to practice with signs and without signs?
Oh, okay. I think now you asked that question. I didn't talk about the signless. I just talk about the sign. The sign here is, you have that image, different image, like when you are visualizing the Buddhas, as I mentioned before, stage by stage, from emptiness, then arising of the sound of the mantra, from the sound, then arising of the syllable mantras, and from that transforming into the deity itself. So you have all the signs or image of that. And so that image, that is sign. When it's a signless, then it is just meditating on emptiness without that visualizations. Then in your meditation, there is no other object, just emptiness. There's no image of the Buddha or image of anything. But so that is the sign and signless. So signless is meditating on the emptiness. Basically meditating on the emptiness, mainly on the emptiness. Okay. Okay. Okay, so then we can do the dedication, please. Yeah, you want to do this one.
From Master Shantideva. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective, and may wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world.